Welcome back to Disturbed Reality. Ecuador, a country situated on the northwest coast of South America, has found itself entangled in the complex web of the drug trade. Its geographical location, bordering Colombia to the north and Peru to the east, positions it as a key transit point for drug trafficking activities. Ecuador's geographical location plays a pivotal role in its involvement in the drug trade. Bordered by Colombia, one of the world's largest producers of cocaine, and Peru, another significant source of illicit drugs, Ecuador serves as a natural corridor for the transportation of narcotics. The dense Amazon rainforest in eastern Ecuador provides cover for clandestine laboratories and facilitates the movement of drugs across borders. The country's extensive coastline, dotted with ports, further enables traffickers to smuggle narcotics by sea. Aside from its strategic geographical location, Ecuador has grappled with institutional weaknesses that have made it susceptible to the influence of drug cartels. Corruption within law enforcement agencies and government institutions have been a persistent issue. In fact, in Ecuador, even the politicians aren't safe, as shown recently with the assassination of presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio in August of 2023. His murder was attributed to have been linked to drug cartels, with a gang known as Los Lobos being suspected of the killing, though they do deny this. Traffickers often exploit these weaknesses to facilitate the transportation of drugs and evade prosecution. Inadequate resources, training, and equipment for law enforcement agencies contribute to their vulnerability in the face of well-funded and organised criminal networks. The involvement of powerful transnational criminal organisations adds another layer to Ecuador's prominence in the drug trade. These organisations, often linked to Colombian and Mexican cartels, leverage the country's vulnerabilities to establish smuggling routes and operations. The influence of these groups extend beyond national borders, complicating efforts to dismantle their networks. These criminal organisations engage in sophisticated tactics including money laundering, bribery, and intimidation to ensure the smooth flow of their illicit activities. The collaboration between different criminal networks often blurs jurisdictional boundaries, making it challenging for authorities to address the issue comprehensively. In the last 12 to 18 months, there has been a reported increased presence from the two biggest Mexican drug cartels in Ecuador, those being CJNG and Cartel de Sinaloa. Ecuador, due to its strategic location, is a goldmine for such criminal organisations. Both CJNG and Cartel de Sinaloa have also further exacerbated violence in Ecuador. Currently, Los Choneros and Los Lobos are arguably the two biggest drug gangs in Ecuador. Los Lobos being a breakaway group from Los Choneros, and they have subsequently gone to war with their old employers. CJNG have allied with Los Lobos and have been providing them with support, and Cartel de Sinaloa have affiliated with Los Choneros, once again providing support to the group. By allying themselves to such groups, CJNG and the Sinaloa cartel have the ability to access new drug smuggling routes, as well as a new market to explore. The violence between Los Lobos and Los Choneros has been increasing in recent months, with assassinations and hits being carried out in public on a far too frequent basis, as well as even more gruesome cases of murder and torture, such as dismemberments and beheadings. Ecuador has faced pressures from the international community, especially the USA, to enhance its efforts in combating drug trafficking. The country has engaged in cooperative initiatives with neighbouring nations and international organisations to address the transnational nature of the drug trade. However, the effectiveness of such efforts is often hindered by internal challenges and external pressures. In conclusion, Ecuador's prominence in the drug trade is a complex interplay of geographical, institutional, and criminal factors. Addressing this issue requires a comprehensive approach that includes strengthening institutions, improving law enforcement capabilities, and fostering international cooperation. As Ecuador continues to grapple with the multifaceted challenges of the drug trade, it underscores the need for sustained efforts to mitigate the impact of this global issue on the nation and its people. The reality is, however, as of right now, the drug-related violence in Ecuador shows no signs of slowing down, with the infiltration from Mexican drug cartels, as well as the ongoing war between Los Choneros and Los Lobos. Ecuador going into 2024 seems set for a year of despair, violence and brutality. With that being said, Ecuador, unsurprisingly, has become a hotbed in relation to graphic online content. While gruesome videos have always come out of the country, in the last 12 months or so, such graphic clips seem to be becoming far more regular. Many gangs in the country utilize social media much like Mexican drug cartels to sow fear among authorities, the general public, as well as their rivals, which has been the predominant reason for the rise in violent content from Ecuador. Usually, such videos are that of shootings, but recently, clips featuring mutilation, beheadings, and other forms of savagery have become far more common. Today, we take a look at 3 recent clips to come out of Ecuador. But nevertheless, what happens in the actual videos? Number 1. Jungle Brutality. The video in question is 2 minutes and 48 seconds in length, and has made the rounds online recently, though, from my research, the video is more than likely 2 or 3 years old. The descriptions and titles for the video on numerous sites insinuate that the clip is from Ecuador, though I'm not entirely sure of that, as the version in which I watched is dubbed with a dreary instrumental, making it hard to discern which language is being spoken in the video. However, the clip is definitely from South America. The clip itself is shot during the dead of night, in a jungle location, and combined with the poor quality device which filmed the incident, it makes it hard to fully make out certain aspects of the video. As you play the clip, you are met with the horrific sight of the victim being held down by one of his captors. The victim appears to have taken a beating prior to recording, and he is face down on the ground, laying in the jungle foliage. A hitman is sitting over his back, almost straddling him, and he is pulling the victim's head up, exposing his throat. He is also holding what appears to be a brand new shiny machete to the victim's throat. Several men, presumably other hitmen, can be heard talking in the background. The hitman holding the machete then pulls the victim's head up even further and starts slicing his throat with the blade. It is as it looks, razor sharp, and it cuts through the throat and ligaments like butter. Blood leaks onto the jungle ground, and the victim's grimaces of pain are utterly horrific, though he doesn't make a sound. Once the Sicario has slashed the victim's throat, he lets go of his hair, and the victim's face drops into the ground. The victim is still alive, however, and lifts his head up with a look of shock, panic, and confusion on his face. The Sicario then immediately strikes the victim on the back of the neck with the machete, and in just one hit, the blade appears to cut through the spine, as per the loud cracking noise, and the fact that the victim goes completely limp. The Sicario then strikes 2 to 3 more times with the machete, completely decapitating the victim. At this point, other Sicarios can then be seen in the video. They try to grab the severed head, but due to the blood, they cannot get a hold of it. Eventually, a Sicario picks it up and holds it up to the camera for a few seconds. The hitman then resumes to hacking away at the corpse, and he cuts off the victim's right forearm in a matter of seconds. He cuts off the other arm and then holds it up to the camera. He is dismembering the corpse so quickly. He then cuts the victim's legs off at the knees, though this takes longer than the beheading and the dismemberment of the arms, though the Sicario still does it in an efficient manner, so to speak. Every time he cuts off a limb, he is throwing it in a pile where he threw the other limbs and the severed head. Eventually, he cuts both legs off and then appears to begin cutting the victim's chest open, but the recording stops here. In all of my time watching such videos, I don't think I've ever seen such a sharp machete being used. The clip is bloody and gruesome, and certainly not for the faint of heart. Number 2. Butchering and a failed flaying. This clip is without doubt from Ecuador, and the video is 1 minute and 13 seconds in length. The brutal clip appears to stem from the ongoing war between Los Choneros and Los Lobos. In fact, the victim seems to be affiliated with Los Choneros. It's hard to ascertain as the video is cropped in a weird way which cuts out text, but what I managed to translate suggested that it was a warning video to anyone affiliated with Los Choneros. Throughout the video, you are also shown images of various rival gang members, including one of the victim who is being butchered. The video is dubbed with a dour-sounding instrumental, and a man can be heard reading a message, presumably a warning to rival gangs. The message was recorded after the video was filmed and was dubbed over the clip. The gruesome video takes place in a desolate concrete room with no furniture, akin to a scene in a Saw movie. As you play the video, you are immediately met with bloodshed. I don't say that lightly, there is literally blood everywhere. At first, I thought the victim's torso was wrapped in saran wrap, but it's actually the sheen of blood which reflects off the light. Upon playing the video, it's hard to make out whether the victim is dead or alive, though his heart seems to be still beating as blood is leaking at an insane rate. It's also hard to tell if the victim has any other wounds, but a sicario can be seen cutting at the throat of the victim with what appears to be a kitchen knife. After quickly slashing the victim's throat, the sicario then takes the knife and cuts around the victim's face from the top of his hairline all the way down to his chin. It appears as if he is attempting to flay the victim's face. After cutting around the victim's face, there is so much blood that the sicario loses his grip as he is holding the victim's head up, which results in the victim's head falling back onto the concrete ground. As this happens, blood sprays out of the severed carotid artery, leaving a streak of blood on the wall. At this point, you see that the victim is indeed somehow still alive. You see him move and attempt to breathe. The sicario then tries once again to lift the victim by the head, but he can't get a grip due to the sheer amount of blood. The clip then jump cuts and shows the victim laying on his side, and the sicario cuts his neck from behind, attempting to behead him. It jump cuts once again, showing that the man has now been decapitated, and someone seems to kick the severed head across the room. The skin on the forehead is flapping down due to the attempted flaying. Once again the video jump cuts, this time showing the sicario cutting vertically all the way down the corpse's chest and stomach, completely opening him up. You see the intestines and layers of fat below the flesh. The hitman then changes things up and begins to hack away at the corpse's knees. At this point, the corpse is completely drained of blood. It's hard to explain, but in certain videos when this happens, the flesh looks different. It really does look like something out of a butcher's shop. The video ends here, with the victim hacked to pieces, disfigured, disemboweled, and completely eviscerated. All I can say is thank God there were no sounds from the actual video and that it was dubbed by music. The victim was nearly dead at the start of filming, so God knows what transpired before the camera was turned on. The video is incredibly brutal to say the least, though heading into 2024, I expect to see similar coming out of Ecuador stemming from the ongoing war between Los Choneros and Los Lobos. Needless to say, this clip is so bloody, I don't think I can show a single image from it. Number 3. Jungle beheading. The clip in question, much like the previous, is very recent, having been released in December of this year. In relation to context behind the murder, it's your standard cartel-related assassination, or so it seems, though I cannot ascertain which gang was responsible or who the victim supposedly represented. The video is 1 minute and 25 seconds in length, and was shot during the middle of the day in a jungle-type location. A man can be seen being dragged through the woods by two sicarios, both of whom have their faces covered, and a third person is filming. The victim is shirtless and has his hands tied behind his back with rope. They drag him deep into the woods until they force him onto the ground. He is held down face first, and his stomach is laying on top of a log, giving the killers more leverage to hold him in place. One man is holding the victim, while the other is kitted out with a hunting knife that has a serrated blade and also a machete. He appears to quickly stab the victim in the jugular with the blade, which draws out a horrible scream that reverberates around the forest. The screams are met with the familiar sound of gurgling blood and laboured breathing. The sounds the victim momentarily makes are like that of a wet snore. The sicario then takes the machete and strikes the victim on the back of the neck repeatedly. The blade is new and extremely sharp, and immediately becomes covered in blood. After each strike, you see spurts of red mist in the air, and the sound the blade makes is a combined cracking and thudding sound. The victim dies quickly after being struck on the back of the neck, as it appears his spinal cord is severed after just a couple of strikes. The killer continuously strikes away until the head is almost decapitated. He then takes his hunting knife and cuts the remaining strands of flesh, holding the victim's head on his body. Eventually, the sicario completes the job, and the cameraman moves closer to film the severed head that at this point has rolled down into a hole in the ground. Hunting knife in his bloody hand, the sicario then makes gang signs before the video then ends. So once again, another graphic clip. Though the second video, in my opinion, is by far the worst, and certainly the most bloody. In 2024, I fully expect more videos like this to come out of Ecuador, as the country continues to struggle with gang-related violence. The bloodshed is showing no signs of slowing down, and with the interference of Mexican drug cartels, things can only get worse from here. We shall see how things develop in 2024. But mark my words, I'm pretty certain we will cover more videos from Ecuador in the coming months. But anyway, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it if you can enjoy this sort of content. Hit the like, smash subscribe, that would be much appreciated. As this video comes out, it will be 2024, so I want to wish you guys a happy new year. Hopefully you guys achieve and prosper in the new year. Over here, we will continue doing what we're doing. I had a couple of people ask me, am I going to stop the channel? They thought I was stopping the channel for some reason. But no, I'm going to continue, so rest assured, you will get more regular content in the coming weeks and months. But thank you guys for the support, it's much appreciated. And we're heading into 2024, so let's get it, let's achieve, and let's progress. We can all do so much more, and in 2024, that's what I intend to do, both on here and as a person in general. If you have any topic recommendations, feel free to DM me on Twitter. The link will be in the pinned comments. Also, if you could follow me on Twitch, that would also be much appreciated. Once again, the link will be in the pinned comments. But anyway, as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.